Yeah, I think, just to kickstart the session, I just want to thank everybody, Mick, Akash, Ryan, Ethan, all for joining the panel session today. I know it's pretty early, late, and we're all in, I think, 4 different time zones even. So, yeah. And I think our audience would love to hear from yourselves, about a little bit about your companies and yourselves. If so, we could take a minute to, just simply introduce yourselves. I think we can start with Ethan, since you're not muted yet. Yeah.
Thank you. Cool. My name is Ethan. I'm one of the co-founder and partner at Hashed. And Hashed, we are crypto VC since 2018. We're actively looking for the companies who are in the blockchain and the decentralized applications, including infrastructure level project, Ethereum, EOS. And also we are now actively investing in the DeFi sector and the NFT spaces. So I'm really glad to meet you all today.
Cool. Ryan?
Yes. Okay. Nice to meet you guys. I'm Ryan. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of Smart Study. Actually, my company name is not that famous, but we are the owner of the ping pong or the baby shark. I think everyone heard of the baby shark, right? Baby shark, it's like that. Actually, I'm quite novice. I have no idea what the word NFT is because once of time I told the NFT, I think NFT means national football team or not. So I'm quite a nobody, but I'm quite a larger person who owns the content, but would like to find a way. How could I can make a bridge connection between the content, NFT, or some blockchain or the new world? So maybe my question could be simply very stupid, but I would like to ask a very simple question, but I want everyone to hear it, and maybe I would like to expand my horizon. Thank you.
Okay. Mick?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Mick. I'm one of the co-founders and chief business officer at Dapper Labs. Dapper Labs, which is the creator of CryptoKitties and NBA Top Shot and the Flow blockchain.
Fantastic, fantastic, I think. Yeah. Akash?
I'm Akash, CEO, founder of Genies. We're trying to create the next human race. We think that every single person on Earth is going to represent themselves as an avatar. Over the past couple of years, represented a few thousand different celebrities, people like Justin Bieber, Rihanna, Cardi B, and more. And now we're trying to extrapolate those learnings and that offering and bring it to the rest of humanity.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, I'm getting my Genies as we speak, so
So. Oh wow! Let me know if you need a guy.
I mean, I think this first question, Mick, you could, start off. So, NFT craze basically started off with the CryptoKitties, and I still do not know, why everyone is so obsessed with those kitties, but why now, and where is this hype coming from?
Yeah, I think, well, why now? And it's kind of similar to why in 2017 with CryptoKitties, but bigger now. So you mentioned you don't know why everybody's obsessed with cats and CryptoKitties. I mean, the reason why we chose CryptoKitties as the first kind of example of NFTs was because cats rule the internet and they rule YouTube and they rule GIFs, and so of course they were going to rule the blockchain. And so the question should have been why not cats, not why cats. But what happened in 2017 is we were at the height of kind of blockchain hype in general, and a lot of people were hearing about blockchain but couldn't really understand it. And I think what happened with CryptoKitties is that it made it more material. It was something that people could more easily understand. The press loved to talk about cats, and so it was just something that people were able to glock onto. I think similarly, right now we are seeing blockchain become more and more popular. But more importantly, we're seeing a lot more use cases of it, and so this feels more real this time around. The why now for NFTs, I think, is twofold. Now versus then, you have the infrastructure and the on ramps to make it really accessible for regular people to interact with blockchain. In the case of NBA Top Shot, you have most of our users are regular people. They're using credit card on ramps. They come from they're collectors of baseball cards. There are people who play fantasy sports. There are people who are just fans of sports, and so we're seeing real people be able to utilize this technology. We're also seeing that NFTs, because it's tangible, because we're talking about things, we're able to attract a different type of person who wants to come into a space. Creatives, creators, they understand this idea of NFTs, this idea of that these virtual things I create, I can now own. And that kind of deeply increases what is possible in a digital world. And so I think the reason why we're seeing hype in the NFT space that is actually larger than blockchain hype today is because it's more understandable and it's more tangible for a larger group of people.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely agree that I think it's more tangible and it's less conceptual to I would say general public, and even my mom is talking about what NFT is. So it's pretty powerful. When your 60-year-old mom is talking about NFTs and asking you how to buy it, right? So.
Mick, you chose cats because that was at the apex of culture during then. Then you chose basketball. And I remember asking Roham, like literally even 2 weeks ago, I was like, how much do you watch basketball? How big of a basketball fan were you? But you guys did pick the two topics that were in the insertion of the apex of culture. How do you this is more of a tangential fun question. It could happen completely offline. I'm just asking for the fuck of it, truthfully. But how do you guys collaborate and then figure out what sector, what category do you guys want to tackle in order to create some type of app? And obviously now you guys are prioritizing it so that third-party platforms can come on board and then create really cool cultural apps. We're really excited to come on board for you guys too. But how did you guys go about what was, when people I go to my mom and I'm like, Mom, when you were going to name me, you had top 10 names. What was number 2, 3, 4, 5? What was number 2, 3, 4, 5 for cats? And then after NBA Top Shot?
I don't know for cats. I think it was just cats, and we didn't have a list down. It was Mac came up with cats. It had to be cats, and so it was cats. We did have different designs of cats, and that we just put up Facebook ads and saw which one was getting the most clicks, and that's how we ended up with that design of cat. So when it came to NBA Top Shot, it was a combination of things. The first one was we were really just thinking about what is something that we can take that is going to be a 10 times better experience than exists today. And for us, we felt that was sports in the sense that today what people collect are signed jerseys, signed helmets, and in the case of football, in the case of hockey, signed sticks that remind them of the game that they were at, or when something really, really incredible happened, or it's cards, which is essentially a portrait on a piece of cardboard. And when we were thinking about sports, we were thinking about, well, why do people love to watch sports? And we believe it's because you want to see exceptional human beings achieve greatness. And that's what, in those moments of greatness is what makes us fall in love with the player, with the team. There's something that we share with our community. So they're deeply, deeply emotional moments. I remember in '93 as a little kid, but I got to be at the final of the Stanley Cup in Montreal, and I got to watch that. And when I think about that moment, not only do I remember it vividly, but I remember who I was and how I felt. Mm-hmm. And that's just really cool. And so we felt that if we could capture that and deliver that as memorabilia to fans, that is actually 10 times better. than a portrait on a piece of cardboard. And then when it came to prioritizing, we wanted to be a sport that was where people had a really good connection with the players themselves. And so basketball has that because they don't wear helmets, et cetera. They've got big personalities. They're really, really active on Twitter. We wanted something that the fan base tended younger, and basketball is kind of like the fans are some of the youngest folks. And we wanted something that had international appeal because we felt that we felt that would be kind of the beginning of building an audience for the Flow blockchain, and we wanted Flow to be global. So really that was the consideration. So NBA was perfect. It was also the NBA were great partners. They already had a working group on blockchain. So we were talking to people who understood our language. They were willing to take risks. And so it's a combination of all those things. I mean,
makes sense.
Yeah. How did you do it? Who was the first person you went after?
Anyway, because you have choose cat, not a dog. You already would choose basketball, not baseball, not hockey. Then what's your wonderful decision? Because I think many things actually under the water. But anyway, your two decisions are quite brilliant. Could you tell me how you guys, your team, decide what is the best way to follow MG, maybe millennial or G generation? Because you guys are quite brilliant. I would like to hear. How could you decide the point?
I think it goes back to we just try to think about audience first, and what is the audience we want to attract, and then what can we deliver to them that's going to be really meaningful, and meaningful in the sense that it's not something they're going to find cool once, but they're going to keep wanting coming back and back and back. I think the thing we're most proud about with NBA Top Shot is the retention rate. Week 1 retention is above 90%. Week 15 is above 70%, and that's what's important is delivering something that people keep wanting to come back to.
I think you had a question to Akash, right? About how he chose first genie or first avatar.
Yeah, I mean it's similar, right? Like, Akash, you're building the future here. You see a future of everybody having their first digital avatars, and it makes perfect sense, right? We spend all our lives in virtual lives, but like, how did you decide, like, this is the first person I need to go after?
I mean, we did, yeah, I mean, so we were all in San Francisco. We had pivoted like 17 times on a previous product at this point, and nothing was really working, but we were all in social and consumer, and we became infatuated with this concept of digital identity. And we've been obsessed with it for quite some time, like just being able to like accessorize your online reputation. And so we kind of set out on this mission to build the most dynamic avatar, both from an aesthetic point of view, but then also from a use case perspective as well. And when we were all in San Francisco, it was only like 4 or 5 of us. We shipped the product onto market, and for some reason, it took off in LA. And it was all like the hype beast kids in LA. And it's because we had like, the way that we were creating fashion was really like drippy. It wasn't very conventional. It was super contrarian. Like, at least to San Francisco, there was no vest, there was no collared shirts. Like, it was like, it was like dope, drippy, like crazy, swaggy shit. And a lot of the hype beast kids on Fairfax and everybody were like downloading it and using it. And so I started coming to LA like every Tuesday, 7 a.m. on a Delta. I used that as my bus. Like, I would get onto the 7 a.m. I'll look to my left, I'll look to my right. I'd be like, oh, what's up, dude? Like, how you do? Like, every single Tuesday, and just treated that like my commute. And I'd come here for like a 24 hours or 36 hours and just meet people. There was one time I was at one of the bars over here, and somebody asked me like, hey, can you show me what your product is? I was like, yeah, sure. Like, we were talking about like our backgrounds, whatever. So I showed it to her. And it was actually Offset's mom, Offset from Migos. And I didn't know that, but she was like, hey, I would love for you to make one of my sons. And I was like, okay, like, who's your son? She showed me her son. I was like, yeah, I'll make one for Offset, no doubt. So then within like 24, 36 hours, we flipped it over to her and we gave it to her. And she was like, this is awesome. I'm going to show it to him. This is so cool. So she went and showed it to Offset. He loved it. And then that was that. 2 weeks later, Offset was supposed to show up at a Versace activation. Basically, he was supposed to go and do like a Versace runway or something like that. and he was completely missing. Like nobody could find where he was, and like, you know, they couldn't get access to him, whatever. So she ended up calling our avatar agent, myself, Jake Becker, who was with me as well. I was like, hey, I don't know where Offset is. He has to be here in the next 4 hours to do this type of appearance. Is there any way that his genie could do it instead for him? Because I don't know, I can't get in contact with them. And so because we had spent like 2.5 years at this point digitizing everything in this world, right? Like this coffee, this phone, this couch, everything's been digitized, all the basic stuff in our library.
So I think Ethan, or you could also add into this. I think
Yeah. So going back to the original questions, so but why now, and where is the hype on the NFT coming from, right? So I think there are several reasons, but in my opinion, first of all, one of the main reasons is huge liquidity in global. So we are going through abundant liquidity, which we never experienced before. And I think Federal Reserve minted lots of dollars, and it increased not only the stock market, but also the crypto market. And thanks to the recent surge of the stock market and crypto market, it regained the investors' interest. So investors who are new to crypto market first invested in Bitcoin, and then got interested in altcoins, and then NFTs as well. So compared to the DeFi, the NFT is more tangible and understandable, as Mick said. So for example, artists like Beeple or influencers like Blau, Paris Hilton are trying interesting experiments through NFTs. And more importantly, they are communicating with their fans and the public through the social network, and the expressing out their digital works made out of NFTs. So thinking about their influence, it is very natural that their fans are studying NFTs to understand better about their influencers' work.
Yeah, I think I definitely have to agree that liquidity added a fuel to this hype, or, you know, not the hype, I would say. I think this time it's pretty much here to stay and everything. So, you know, I'm still a firm believer, and, you know, I think I've talked with Ethan before about, you know, how the world is going to be a Ready Player One, you know, whether we like it or not, you know, like we're all going to experience that. And, you know, Akash, you are adding to it. Nick, you guys are adding to it. Yeah, Ethan, yes, yeah, of course, you guys are like investing into it heavily. So, and Ryan, you know, you already brought, you know, sharks into the reality. So, and just you know, just a random question that I wanted to ask Ryan too about, you know, since you asked Mick and Akash about you know, how they chose their characters, but sharks aren't the cutest things, or, you know, the first thing that, you know, comes to mind when, you know, when you think about kids. You know, it's one of the most fearsome creatures in the universe, in the nature, right? So why sharks, guys? Like, why sharks, Ryan? How did you guys decide?
Yeah, because I think many people in States, or maybe some Western Hemisphere, they regard that sharks quite fierce animal in the sea. But actually, I'm from South Korea, so I have no legacy actually. It's like, we think about the Disney person who made the mouse into character. Actually, mouse is not fitable for the character, right? But for Disney, nobody regard mouse could change into adorable character. I think it's the same change, right? Because I have no legacy, we have no legacy, so we regard shark. They also have family. They could be changed into adorable character, like Disney does 50 years ago. Not 50, just 70 years ago, actually. But anyway, yeah, that's our approach. Because we are novice, we have no prejudice, and we have no experience in this area, because we have some privilege to try to do everything. Yeah, that's our approach actually.
So I think we can move on to next question as well. And I think we briefly touched on it in the previous question as well, but there are a whole bunch of stuff that's being issued as NFTs, and a lot of people ask me, does NFT hold any intrinsic value? Why are people paying so much money for it? What's the reasoning behind it and everything? And since we have all the experts here, could you guys sort of explain, what the intrinsic value of NFTs are or would be, and if there's none, you guys can say there's none,
I'll jump in here first. I'm actually really curious to Ethan's point of view from a financial standpoint. But I mean, when we were thinking about NFTs, we were really thinking about how do you represent unique things on the blockchain. And so it's not we don't see it as an asset class. We just see it as a tool. And that tool with fungible tokens allows you to build all different sorts of applications. And some of them can have a ton of value as a thing, and some of them can have close to zero value. It's like the difference between a gold coin and a cap of plastic. Both are useful. They have less intrinsic value. When we think about our digital life, like when we think about, for example, NBA Top Shots, do they have intrinsic value? It's a combination. It's really about two trends. One is we're seeing everybody's lives becoming more digital, and people are spending more and more time in being digital first. And so to us, it makes sense that you'd want your collectibles to be digital as well. And so for us, we think that collectibles have intrinsic value because of community. And so as long as the sport is popular, as long as there's a large populace that believes that the sport is popular and that believes that this particular athlete is amazing and that this particular athlete's thing that he did is really, really cool, there will be value for that moment. And blockchain is just and NFTs is just a matter of delivering that more than anything else. So yeah. So I think kind of just to wrap that up, so certain things will have a huge amount of intrinsic value from a utility standpoint, other ones from a cultural standpoint, and other ones just won't because they weren't relevant.
Yeah, I would like to add my opinion on this question. So basically, intrinsic value of artwork is very subjective to each of the people who determine the price. So if you ask a price to someone who is a fan of specific limited edition of figure, he will tell a lot higher price than others who are not interested in those collectibles. So digital artwork or even real physical artwork, whatever it is, the price is determined by supply and demand, and high price comes from the scarcity. So if the artwork cannot be replaced by any artist in the world and it is widely adopted to the people, the artwork will be invaluable. So I don't think there is a clear way to measure intrinsic value of artwork objectively, but one of the ways which is admitted to the public widely to determine the price is using auction or a marketplace which is exposed to many bidders. In other cases, in case of game items or limited lands, which have a little bit of a security features by rental, it would be somehow easier to measure the intrinsic value by calculating the DCF, discounted cash flow model. So for example, land NFT owners in League of Kingdoms, which is a blockchain game, they are getting dividends from the company, which makes revenue. So in that case, it is a lot easier to calculate than artworks. So generally, price detection is a very difficult problem in traditional auction houses or secondary marketplace too. So to find a suitable price of the NFTs, I think it is helpful to use NFT bank type services. So NFT Bank is a very useful tool to find the price of NFTs which I own. According to NFT Bank, almost less than 20% of NFTs minted on the Ethereum network were resold through secondary market. So the other 80% of NFTs are not resold in the secondary market. so only first minted. So it is not possible to estimate the current price by looking into the past price history because there are not many samples. So rather than tracking price history of each NFTs, they use machine learning and the clustering by extracting features like location of the land, if it is near the land owning really great IP, or if it is game item, the stats or the class can be taken into account. And then they estimate the current price with the clustering and machine learning model. So if digital artwork can be displayed in the virtual galleries and it can collect numerics like view count, staying times, or click count, I think it'll be a lot easier to estimate the artwork's price too.
Yeah, there's a whole craze about, you know, getting your own avatar and everything. And I guess I see all these teenagers, you know, making a living off, you know, designing clothes or items in you know, avatar studios and everything. And, you know, do you see this new sort of a young creative force coming in and, you know, adding value to this whole sort of avatar ecosystem or digital identity ecosystem? Is that something that you foresee?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, you know, our grounded mission is to deliver an identity for everybody to feel almost more loyal towards than their physical self, because on the internet, that's where you're able to express fully who you are, right? Like, that's initially why the internet was created. It was created to be this safe place where you just came, you could therapeutically do and be whoever you wanted to be. And we've kind of gotten a little bit away from that over the past 20 years or so. We kind of want to swing the pendulum back. I think NFTs are really unique because if you have, like, I think here's like the problem with NFTs right now, actually. I think it kind of goes into the previous question. Everybody says the NFT space is blowing up, right? Like, that's like 24/7 the conversation, whatever. We have to remember, and I'm going to make some assumptions about our ages here, but we're all above 25, right? Like I think that's a safe bet. I don't know, Mick, maybe you're a little bit younger, but I think we're all above 25 here. If we're all above 25, if I go into a clubhouse tonight, an NFT group tonight, and everybody's like, it's popping off, there's 2,000 people in there, everybody's going nuts, I'll bet my entire life in existence that it's all music executives, it's all business executives, and there's no 13, 14, or 15-year-olds in there quite yet. And the reason why, and I almost took a screenshot of this conversation, I text like a group of 25 kids very, very frequently, not in like a weird way, it's just like for Genie specifically. And I asked them the other day, I was like, hey, what do you guys think of the metaverse? And they were like, what the fuck is that? They're like, what is a metaverse? They don't even hear that terminology. They don't even hear the word NFT, but it doesn't mean that they don't want those two things. It means that they are not, you know, we're not speaking their language to deliver something that a 13, 14, 15, and 16-year-old would understand, right? They view it as something different, right? If I go to a 14-year-old today and I'm like, hey, listen, you can go buy this NFT. You can own this moment forever because it means something to you. And it's going to accrue value over the next 4 to 5 months, right? Even though with the success of NBA Top Shot, it's still a little bit of a hump for people to get over. People are still kind of like, all right, I need to wrap my head. And there are people on NBA Top Shot that have been moving, and that's been like the best product till date, the best consumer adoption till date. But in my opinion, it's still not quite there in terms of getting like the entire high school masses on board. They don't care as much about that one moment of buying an NFT moment and accruing value, but they will buy a shit ton of stuff for their Fortnite character, right? And so even though you're not saying the word metaverse, they still like it because they're in that world. Even though you're not saying the word NFT, they still are buying limited edition collectible moments on the internet, right? In Fortnite limited drops. So we can speak their language. So I say all that as context. Obviously, I'm preaching like my own fucking product, but you know, I say that as context because that is kind of what we're trying to do at Genies, right? We're taking a consumer first approach into the crypto space. We want to bridge the chasm between crypto and non-crypto because we want to speak a language that Gen Z and millennials will understand without screaming some of the industry knowledge and terminology and things of that nature. And so I do think that there's going to be a new, I think, generation of creators that are birthed from the avatar and virtual space for sure. specifically around, I guess, people always talk about how Genies works with Gucci, and they're like, oh my God, you guys are creating some new Gucci shit, and you guys are going to be dropping all of the new avatar wearables and so forth. How do you think Gucci's going to be, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Gucci's awesome for being this forward thinking and for having first mover advantage to come into the avatar wearable space. But I kind of sit there and I'm like, the Gucci for the digital world has yet to be created, right? There's going to be new artists that are going to be sitting there. They're going to create metaverse collections, and they're going to speak, and they're going to identify what the ecosystem and the brand really feels like. They're going to realize what a 14, 15, and 16-year-old deems as luxury and deems as top upper echelon for the metaverse. And if a brand doesn't try to reinvent themselves for the metaverse and instead tries to do a one-to-one representation of what they're doing in the physical world and just bring it to the digital world, they're going to fail, right? So like, we'll go to like Alessandro Michael at Gucci, will be like, dude, like we literally won't create we won't create your Gucci pants. You have to reinvent your entire collection, your entire brand identity for the metaverse. And so that, I think, to answer your question, is why we're going to see so many new creators come into this space, because it's like level set the entire playing field. Like anybody can come in and become the next Gucci. Anybody can come in and become the next Charli D'Amelio. Anybody can come in and become the next, president of the metaverse. I joke that like Roham and Mick are currently the presidents of the metaverse, but at one point there could be a coup and somebody else could come in. It's like, it's really fascinating because it's a brand new world being created and there's no rules as yet. On that note, I talk to GCs and lawyers all the time. I'm like, there's an opportunity for avatar and virtual being lawmaking that somebody should be going after. But yeah, anyways, I hope that answers your question.
Mick.
I was gonna say, no, I really like what I love about what Genies is doing is it will be able to empower user-generated content in a way that wasn't possible before. And like when you like we talk about how the future of fashion is digital, but what's beautiful about that is that it decreases the barriers to entry to anybody, right? Anybody or a group of people could come in and design new clothing, create their fashion lines without a bit of backing. And so it just really expands what is going to be possible. And so I find that really, really exciting.
I mean, I think we've sort of briefly touched on this topic, but I think that we're just at the verge of the new beginning, and I just want to have the sort of the wildest imagination shared from each and every one of you on what are sort of the untapped areas in NFTs, and what you guys see as the sort of the next sort of the most interesting space that we should explore with the NFT.
I would say exponential NFTs, right? Like it's still so, which is great. It's still so art heavy. And that's just like such a small segment of what NFTs can probably offer over time. And so being able to like unlock physical experiences and not just delivery, but like, I'm thinking things are going to be really interesting, honestly, when things do open up. I feel like there is this, talking about the pandemic, obviously, like, I think there is this general belief. There's like one contingency of people and school of thought that's like, okay, when things do open up, NFTs are going to dwindle, or like, they're going to dissipate. And I actually think it could be the opposite, that it could be actually a catalyst to an extent, because it does open up more opportunities for people to unlock physical experiences when they go places, right? So like, I could buy an NFT, and all of a sudden it says like, yo, like you can go to like this front, go to like in the basketball game, go to like this, like, row like Z fucking seat 12, and look underneath the seat, and there's going to be something, like there's going to be things like that, which I think are really cool. So I do think like the direct correlation between the physical and digital world is actually you're going to see a catalyst of NFTs coming in the next like 6 to 8 months, and I think that's going to be really interesting and cool.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the idea. Like, I mean, because what is NFTs? At the end of the day, it's like proof of ownership, and really proof of ownership is really proof of fandom. And so like, what does your proof of fandom unlock for you? because you can trace it and it's much harder to fake. I actually kind of think more digital. Like what I think the combination of like NFTs plus augmented reality when it gets to where it needs to go, or NFTs and virtual reality when it gets to where it needs to go, it's going to make it much more real, right? Like NFTs make digital products feel more real because they're durable, because they're truly ownable, and because they're scarce. And so those are the kind of things you need to make VR and AR kind of feel really real. And so I think that there's a lot of untapped potential right there.
Yeah, actually, I totally agree with Mick. Actually, I bought a recent VR gear and I had a chance to use art gallery in VR. And I was very surprised by this high quality. And of course, there are some issues in user experience or the controller issue, but immersiveness and the sense of realism was quite good. One thing that I was not much satisfied with was all the artworks are stationary. If we develop like a metaverse more in the future, there are more ways to enjoy artworks, sculptures, items in an interactive way. So at that time, I think NFTs will have more values in terms of utility. And secondly, I think there is a strong potential in NFT composites. For example, the estate in Decentraland has several parcels in one estate, or Abigachi character can have items like hat, clothes, or even we can stake tokens in Abigachi character. So when you play a MMORPG game, you might have experienced like a set items which have special effects by collecting same sort of class. So similar to set items, I believe it is possible to add more value to the specific effect to the NFT composite, or making it rarer by composing several NFTs into one NFT composite. And also the ETF basket, which comprises several NFTs, can be sort of a composite too. It is not completing a collection, a specific collection, but by comprising the ETF basket, I think it is attractive financial product which can be served to the retail investors and making the barriers lower to own the NFTs.
I just talked to one of the my friends about opening a digital gallery in a metaverse space just yesterday. So they're talking to some of the very traditional sort of Oriental artists, calligraphers, and these people are like well into their 60s, 70s, whatever. But they were also interested in it because they could see that their artwork could live much longer in a metaverse format than actual gallery, and they could sort of transfer the values to generations to come more effectively, and there's a true sense of community being built on the transfer of the ownership, because you can actually see who owned it and what was the sort of the ownership experience like during that period through NFT. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Koning Gallery created a gallery in Decentraland, or they essentially rebuilt their physical gallery in Berlin, like the whole architecture and stuff, and you can walk through it and put digital art pieces there. I mean, to Ethan's point, I think it'd be more interesting to kind of remove that in a sense. And like when you're in a digital world, like space doesn't matter anymore. So like, what does a gallery experience look like when you don't have that the limitations of physicality, and how can that be experiential in a way to kind of engage with a series of art? That's one of the things I'm excited about, someone to kind of really just tackle that problem and kind of change it on its head.
That'll be pretty awesome, man. That'll be pretty exciting. Actually, like really like experiencing the true like sort of 4D. We are not confined by time or space or whatever. And I mean, we talk about this quite often in the NFT space, or not actually in the NFT space, but more in the entertainment and content space. I think some of you guys might know a service called Audius, who are trying to solve censorship issues in the music market with NFTs. I mean, just on the censorship resistance, how would you guys think NFTs could affect the game or entertainment market in the long run?
I think I can start with this question. Basically, I believe IP protection is very important. So at the root of censorship to music, game, characters, movie, or any types of content businesses, I think there is a IP protection. Without IP protection, content creators will not protect their rights from the piracy and plagiarism. So that is why hundreds of Disney lawyers are looking for where their IP is used without permission and send warning letter and make lawsuits in primitive ways. But I think excessive and thoughtless censorship prevents remix, cover, or even derivative contents. So I think IP industry will experience huge change through NFTs. So software industry had gone through a very similar path of IP industry. So on one hand, there was a movement from the companies who wanted to prevent illegal digital piracy and protect their IPs by obfuscating their source code. But on the other hand, there was another movement from open source to grow ecosystem a lot bigger by opening everything they own and increase their ecosystem a lot bigger. And so by opening everything they own and increase their influence to the individual developers who are working for the big companies. So in this way, open source foundation or entity made a big success in the industry by making every developers depending on their source code. So I think future IP protection will be somehow similar to these two different movements. So one is traditional ways, which Disney lawyers kept doing, and the other is open IP using kind of NFTs. So because NFT is implemented on top of blockchain and smart contract, it is open to everyone and anybody can subscribe to NFT, which holds IP. And it will be useful to make revenue share by using a smart contract and distribute the revenue to both of original IP holder and the content creators who use the IP. So by using this type of subscription to IP NFT model, there are huge room to utilize it to metaverse and making kind of a kingdom of a specific IP. So this open source type IP will get enthusiastic support from the community level, and community members will freely to make secondary or third derivative contents and make this ecosystem a lot huge. Yeah, that is my opinion.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you. And I think, it's pretty sad to say that time is running, and I just want to thank everyone for joining today. And I believe, we would be sort of connecting in either Genies or, any other metaverse very soon. So once again, nice to have you all, and hope to see you guys again very soon. Thank you all.